And here we go. We have liftoff. Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, with planet.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SE off. Bring in SE off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage. Put that in the big bag, Tingle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane would be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You bet. We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome to another live stream of NSF from the Space Coast. You can see there a live view of the Falcon 9 rocket awaiting liftoff for a T0 at 7:10 a.m. Eastern Time from Launch Complex 39A for the Starlink 10-51 mission. Welcome to this launch coverage. You probably know my name already. I'm Alex. And, guys, you can see there's a little bit of sunlight. Well, might be the last daylight launch in a little bit, given recent event, which we're probably going to talk about that. And, of course, I'm not alone here. I'm always accompanied by a really, what would Jack would say? A competent cohort of co-hosts, right? Yeah. So Marty, thank you for being with me. I'm butchering this intro, I guess, but I thought it could be a really nice touch there.
Hello, Alex, and thanks for calling me competent. It is a
You
foggy
are
day out here
competent.
where I am. Oh, thanks. It's a foggy day out here where I am, but on my screen I can see a rocket, so that's a good thing in my books.
Yeah. Yeah. So Marty, you probably have heard him already on the Ariane 6 launch stream, by the way, if you were around for that. But he's rather new to commentary, so just be gentle with him, folks in chat, and of course you know the drill. You can tag at NASA Spaceflight in chat at NSF. I'm gonna be throwing questions to him. You can also throw questions to me as well because I'm also here, and you can also throw some questions, not a lot, because to the field because they are a little bit busy and there's a lot of big things happening in the next coming hours and days. So we have out there in the field DYs, and if I'm not mistaken, also Max. I've had no idea if Max is there as well, though.
It is just me this morning out here, and actually,
Okay.
it's funny you mentioned the fog this morning because it is quite lucky that this is a 39A launch. We've had a
Yep.
lot of launches from Slick 40 here, but if this were a Slick 40 launch, we would actually be looking through fog. I'm able to be set up by the hut right now, so a little bit more of a raised position. But if I were in the field, I would be surrounded by fog and trying to look through some fog. Um, a bit ironic given some of the fog and visibility conversations on the flame trench, but we have visibility to the pad, and it is a beautiful morning out here on the Space Coast.
Yeah, that's one of the things at least, right, from this launch. So yeah, one of the things that we usually do at the top of the show here is when we cover these launches is what it's all about. But I guess we should probably address, yeah, Carson, I'm seeing the producer thing at the top right. I'm not forgetting about you. So yeah, we've got. See, he just blew it up. I was gonna do that. So we have Carson, of course, producing the show as well, pulling all the levers. Oh my.
Pulling the levers, pushing the buttons. Are you still there, Alex?
Well, it sounds like we might have lost Alex here. We'll wait for him to come back. But, this is another Starlink mission we've got here today. So we've got Falcon 9 on 39A preparing to launch 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites into orbit. Now, as Alex was saying just a bit earlier, this might be the last daytime launch for a bit. So this week we saw the news that commercial launches are going to be restricted to hours between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. local time. So we've got to, well, enjoy the daylight while we have them. We were talking a bit about it on the Flame Trench last night. It's not super clear what missions might fall outside of those requirements to launch during the lovely nighttime hours. Like 3 a.m. Starlinks do be hitting different, and I have to say, 7:10 a.m. Starlinks also do be hitting different because it is a good bit of a setup time getting out here. But this should be an absolutely gorgeous morning as we see sunlight begin to bathe the Space Coast.
Well, thank you for taking that over. I don't know why, but my computer is lately being a little bit trouble. It's being crashing more often than not. So that's what happened. I was not speechless. I saw the chat. Anywho, so yeah, it's one of those things that it sometimes happens because we are live, and we gotta deal with it. So yeah, we are in daylight, and there's this whole FAA thing happening. Is this in violation of that FAA order, Marty
So,
or D?
It shouldn't
Who
be,
wants to go first?
because as far as I'm concerned, the FAA order takes effect on November 10th, and
Uh-huh.
checking my calendar, it's still November the 8th.
There you go. Okay, so this is still not the time where that ban, curfew, whatever you want to call it, is in effect. So today's launch, good. It's okay. Tomorrow's launch of New Glenn is still before the curfew. So in theory, that might also go as planned, I guess? Question mark, right?
Exactly.
The big question mark is what happens after all of these launches. We're probably going to talk about that a little bit later, but I thought we should clear this out like at the top of the show before even talking about the mission, because I know a lot of people are probably wondering why are they even doing this today if there's this curfew, because this is at 7 a.m. and the curfew goes from it's like you are only allowed to launch between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. This is already past 6 a.m., right? But it's still not the moment for that. So Marty, can you tell us what is going on today's mission on Starlink 10-51?
Well, Dee already gave a bit of an introduction, but it's going
Okay.
to launch 29
Oh,
Starlink
I
V2 mini
missed it.
satellites. So yeah, 29 Starlink V2 mini satellites. If my calculations are correct, that should bring the constellation up to, not the constellation, that should bring the total of Starlink missions launched, Starlink satellites launched, apologies, to 10,299. So nearly 10,300. This booster should be launching for the 27th time, if I'm not mistaken.
28. It's on
28.
27 flights. This will
Ah,
be the 28th flight. Yep. That you
that's
can
what we
see
call
there
off
on
by one
screen.
error.
There you can see on screen some of the stats for this booster. B1069. It goes all the way back to 2020, I think it is. It was a long time ago. I know
2021, I think.
2021. Okay, yeah. Sirius 24 was its first mission. And I remember
Yeah.
it came in like crooked on the deck of the drone ship because they had bad seas that day. And so it was a good landing, normal landing, just as usual. And then as it was coming back, it just got a bit. I guess the weather was just not that great on the way back, and so it started it was sort of like leaning on the deck of the drone ship. So yeah,
It was an interesting one.
it
So
was.
we had like we could see the octograbber had attempted to secure the booster, but I mean there was damage visible to all of the legs and the Merlins, and at that point even I was questioning like that looks like a fair bit of damage. Will they be able to fly it again? And sure enough, they have it up to almost 30 flights now, which was, I mean, that's such an incredible number of reflights, and for a booster that got off on such a rocky start recovery wise, it's incredible to see.
Rocky start. uh, but yeah, the seas were probably very rocky. And the good thing about that mission is that the booster at least didn't fall off of the drone ship or anything like that. It still stayed on the drone ship, and as you can see there, it went on to do another 26 missions, and now it's gonna do the 27th after that first mission, which adds up to 28, as you can see by the number there next to the booster number. So yeah, and then as you can see, also a booster recovery on a Shortfall of Gravitas. And we're going to have also the fairings being recovered by fairing recovery vessel Dog. So I have a few questions already here because people are asking. They're very curious people, I guess, in chat. And so, for example, from Keith, we've got, how will the decision by the FAA not to allow daylight flights affect the launch cadence? So, Marty, I know that you, for example, wrote this week in Spaceflight, by the way, you should watch that, the space traffic section. And I know that a lot of times we're like, oh, there's been X number of launches, and it's always like 5, 6, 7 launches in a week worldwide, and 5 of them are always Falcon 9. So after this thing enters into effect, what do you think might happen here? Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, of course, they will try to reschedule as many launches as they can. The question is, can they reschedule these launches into the times required by the FAA, or do they need to wait with these launches until the shutdown is over and the FAA can allow daytime launches again? And that kind of depends on the launch and the target orbit. So, for example, many Starlink missions, SpaceX is launching a lot of them, so they are very, very flexible in when to launch. Because if they can't launch on a certain time, they will just try to fill up another orbit, and that should work. But there are also specific launches that will go to a very targeted orbit. For example, the upcoming Transporter 15 mission is going to a sun-synchronous orbit. And there's basically only one time in a day you can launch that mission. So that's during daytime. So that will be a problem. And launches like these may disappear from the manifest for a bit, as long as these rules are in place. So we might see a few fewer launches.
Yeah, I've seen at least, for those that may go into nextspaceflight.com, you might see that some of these missions have been sort of, moved around in the schedule. They seem to have, at least for Starlink missions, have accommodated the potential that they may have options for a normal window, right? And then there's also options for a window during the the allowed times, right? Because there's a curfew, but it's like it's the opposite of a curfew, right? It's like it's just nighttime launches instead of don't launch at night. It's the opposite, I guess, of what a curfew would. Yeah. When I think about a curfew, it's like you cannot leave at X, time or something like that. But this time around, it's sort of like the opposite. So yeah, we'll see what will happen. Some missions, like for example, Transporter 15 from the West Coast, that actually has a very how to say this? It really needs to launch at a very certain time based on the kind of payloads that it's launching. Whereas Starlink, it's like, well, if it launches in the middle of the night, it's okay. The thrusters on the satellites can sort of reposition the satellites to wherever they want, right? Like the timing of these satellite launches of the Starlink constellation are usually down to where they want to put the satellites in orbit, etc., and spread them out to have good coverage of the Earth and all that. But yeah, as you said, we'll see how will that affect things going forward with some of these missions, and you know, just saying, here's hoping that also all of this situation doesn't last for long, because of course it doesn't only affect launches. There's many other things impacted. So yeah. But anyways, I'm gonna take a few more questions here from the chat, and then I'll go to support because I'm already seeing there's some people buying things on the store. And let's see. Oh, so this is a really important question as well. ACG Wipe C saying, has New Glenn rolled out yet? And when will NSF coverage start tomorrow? I can answer the second one. Maybe D can answer the first one.
Yeah, so I could be wrong. I've been a little bit preoccupied with the launches here and stuff, but I believe New Glenn has rolled out but has not yet gone vertical. So keep a close eye on the Space Coast live cameras. That's a 24/7 stream to keep up to date on that. So of course we see no vertical New Glenn out there at 36 quite yet, but we'll be keeping a close eye for when it does.
Yeah, and our coverage should begin a few hours before the launch window opens. I think we're still trying to exactly decide if it's 3 hours, 4 hours. We'll take a look at who's available and whatnot. Because again, we are super duper busy here at SF, and we might adjust accordingly. But we're thinking sort of like last time, where I think on the first attempt we went live at L minus 4 hours at the point, because there's also a T clock and an L clock for New Glenn, just like for Atlas. And then the second attempt, when they did the final, the second and final attempt, then that was, I think, on at L minus 3 hours. So we'll take a look at that, and it's probably going to be around that. There is already a stream on our channel though, so whenever that happens, whenever that thing goes live, if you click the bell, you go to that live stream, click the bell, it'll get you notified for when we go live for that. And I'm sure this one is going to be even more exciting than the other one, because this one is in daylight, and I prefer daylight. So, and speaking of daylight, I guess you can see there it's sunrise time. It's getting a bit foggy though.
Yeah, that fog has sort of been sitting here, and the morning light has revealed even more of it by 39A. Um, but it's sort of beautifully rolling off the gentle hills. They're Florida hills. Let's be real; they're like 3 feet tall. Um, but it is. But let's hope it stays nice and clear. The skies are a brilliant blue. Not a single cloud in the sky. Just that bit of fog layer right on the ground here.
Yeah. I'm gonna hit another question about another rocket, and then we'll hit the timeline, because there's also another sort of important rocket about to launch soon. And by soon, I mean, within a few months. And this is Terrence Thu, I think, 3438, saying, amazing coverage again. Will you be moving some cameras to 39B for Artemis in February, or do you have them in place already? I can answer a little bit of this. Maybe D can also do their own thing as well here, because they're actually there. But I can say that some of these cameras can actually, if we like move them a little bit to the left, when looking at 39A, you can also look to the left and you'll see 39B. And of course, for those that have been for many years here on the channel, you might know that the beginnings of Space Coast Live were actually during the campaign for Artemis 1. And for a while, the thumbnail of this live stream was indeed, in fact, SLS on the pad. So yes, we'll be able to use the same cameras that we used to see 39A, the VAB, and things like that. We'll track that rocket once it rolls out, hopefully in January. and then we'll be taking a look at it all the time through these cameras that you can see. The 39B towers, sort of where that tank is waiting down there on the ground. If you look a little bit up from there, you can see 3 big towers. Those are at LC-39B, and I'm sure UD are gonna be there. I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you really covered it. Like, we've got our cameras that are in position here for the 24/7 streams, and they are able to look around, whether it be the VAB or 39A or 40. And of course, we'll have those aimed at 39B a whole lot more once we have uh, a rocket to look at on the pad. It's going to be an incredible moment. I will spend a lot of time out here just looking off into the distance because even I forget the exact distance from the press site here to 39B, but it is clear just how large a rocket SLS is. The same way with New Glenn, the sense of scale is, I mean, it's really incredible.
Yeah, it's really huge. So you know what's even huge or huger? I don't know how to transition into this, but of course, we're coming close now to the time of propellant load. So Marty, what's supposed to happen soon? Because let's remind some people where we are here on the timeline.
Yeah, at the moment we were going live, SpaceX was still preparing, getting ready to start loading this rocket. And by this point, the go no go poll for propellant load should have occurred. And propellant load will be starting if they polled go at T minus 35 minutes. So by that point, a few minutes after that, we should be seeing some ice building up on the rocket as the propellant is loading in.
If the fog
And
allows.
if the fog allows, yeah. There's this layer of fog that we're trying to see through. And then during that prop load, at some point, we'll also see our favorite vent at T minus 20 minutes and 20 seconds, which is a sign that they will start loading liquid oxygen on the second stage soon. And as soon as the rocket is nearly loaded, they will also start chilling the engines down. And by that point, we're very close to launch and getting ready for liftoff.
Yep. Uh, this doesn't help what we talked about yesterday on the Flame Trench about East Coast launches being less foggy than West Coast launches, because this will be a 3 in my scale of how foggy or how visible a launch it is. Yeah, because 1 will be clear visibility, 2 is like a little bit of clouds, and then 3 is it's starting to get foggy, and 4 is like I cannot see the rocket. So yeah, this is 3 trending to 4. Very dangerously trending to 4. But how is the weather? Because right now, I mean, we're seeing this fog. Is this a problem for launch? Maybe people might be wondering that.
Well, given half of Vandenberg launches occur in worse fog than this, it's the fog itself isn't really a problem. Now, usually we would be pulling up the 45th Weather Squadron, who does launch forecasts for these. They don't seem to have actually published a launch forecast for this one. But from my eyes here on the ground, it is clear skies, so they don't really have a concern with like the cumulus cloud rule, where if the rocket were flying through clouds, it can cause lightning strikes from passing within the clouds, which is really wild to think about. Um, Similarly, no issues with rain or the like. Uh, we'll have to take a look later at potentially booster recovery weather, but that's not included in the percentage. And that the air is dead still, as you can see by that fog just sitting there over 39A. So while we don't have an official forecast for this mission, I'd say weather-wise, it's looking really good.
Yeah, it's weird why they didn't release that, but I'm guessing they have their own sort of issues already with the whole government shutdown. I don't know if they are even getting paid at all, because there are certain parts that are still working, even though they have no funding. So maybe that's part of the whole thing.
So, similarly to the ATC thing where, like, even essential employees who are working are not
Hmm.
receiving pay, I'm sure that the necessary weather, uh, forecasts are being done to ensure safe launch operations, but
Oh yeah,
does it make sense to do the extra effort of publishing those? Uh, Perhaps that's not as essential for
yeah.
the employees because they're uh, they're not getting paid right now. The federal employees.
Yeah, to be fair, I was referring about the part of publishing, not the part about not doing the weather forecast and things like that to to help the launch companies, because of course that is very critical to be able to maintain the safety of the operations, right? But the part about publishing, it may not be that of an importance in comparison. At the very least, it's not as essential, right? Because it will be just something for the public to know, not for the operators. But yeah, maybe that's into play. I'm gonna hit some support while we'll wait for the fog maybe to clear enough to see that frost appearing, because I hope that they are in propellant load. And we've got here Isaac Hepman, I think, becoming a launch director. Wow, that's one of the top tiers of support. And then we've got Sean Sinsinger. Oh my god, I'm so bad at names. Becoming a red team member. We've got a store message. Somebody bought an NSF Tour unisex hoodie. And we've got here from Joanne saying, "My birthday present, thanks, gang. A special shout out to Jack. Just cried my way through the flame trench. Thank you so much for being you and being there on the streams. I'm really going to miss you. Good luck in your next adventure." This was, by the way, like, this is not from yesterday or anything. Like, I'm not reading an old message. This was from a few minutes ago that they just bought this and they just caught up to the flame trench. But yeah, we're gonna miss Jack. I'm sure he's gonna be in. Oh my god, this sounds weird. I was gonna say in a better place. Not the thing to say when somebody leaves NSF, I guess.
But
Uh,
we are
but he
we're
will.
really used to it. So many people come to NSF, spend their time here, and then move
Yeah,
on to big companies in industry working on incredibly cool missions. And so I can't wait to see what Jack does from here. It's only upward.
indeed. You are very correct. And then we've got Bright BKH asking on a super chat saying, "Can you guys tell me what just streaked across the sky in pieces over Florida?" And I seen some chatter about this in chat, although I was like, what was happening? Like, what are people talking about? I'm really curious about this. And it appears that there was something that they saw up near the Florida Georgia line. So that's interesting. I actually looked it up in on social media trying to see, might have been some piece of space debris, some meteor or something. I'll probably have to look it up a little bit more in detail, but I'm just as baffled as you. I have no idea what it might have been. Um, but yeah, thanks for the support. But by the way, you don't need to support or anything like that to ask questions. Just tag at NASA Space Flight in chat at NSF, and that's good enough. We welcome all sorts of support and questions as always. And of course, we have Byteford as usual, a regular here on NSF with a $25 super chat. Good morning, Alex, D, and Marty. Thanks for your coverage today. For your information, Alex and D, you two cannot leave NSF, period. Got it? Is that a challenge? Well, D, we've been challenged now to not leave, I guess.
All right, let's do it.
Let's see. And then we also have Jason Community becoming a Padrad member as well. So thank you for that, and welcome to the membership program. And so, are we able to see the frost? Because right now the fog there is right in the middle of our view.
You know,
Yeah.
uh, I think this is a certified Vandy moment. I've been saying it. I think Jack's getting revenge for all the crap we gave the West Coast yesterday, me especially. Because the fog is only rising in front of 39A. Some of our cameras have a bit of a higher perspective than I have personally, but I mean, I can see the fairing clearly above the fog, and then I can't see the bottom of the rocket at all. So I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah, and I mean, it's one of those things that it's like, uh when you talk about a certain stuff like this, like visibility from the West Coast, and then it happens, is that a sign from I don't know who, but is that a sign that we should probably not talk about it anymore?
I'll give it a week, then I'll start talking about it again.
That makes sense. Yeah, I will do the same. And so, we obviously have more questions here while we wait to see if the fog clears a little bit. I mean, we'll be able to see the launch once the rocket clears off, right? It's going to be visible because it's only at ground level. But I have a question here from 98 Central asking, was LC-39A originally built for the shuttle program? Marty, I know the answer, but take it away.
I happen to know the answer too. And the answer is no, it was built for the Apollo program. So most of the Saturn V rockets taking off for the moon lifted off from 39A, if I'm not mistaken. And then for the shuttle program, they refurbished the part to fit the space shuttle. And then after a while, after the shuttle ended, they leased the part to SpaceX, which then converted it for Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy. And now we can also see on screen that they're building a tower and a launch pad and everything needed to support Starship.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things that a lot of people don't know is, or at least may not be aware, is that water tower that you can see there, for example, at 39A, wasn't built until actually the shuttle era. It was not there for the Saturn era when Apollo and everything took place from there. So, for example, the Saturn V did had a bit of deluge and things like that, but it didn't have as much water deluge that then shuttle will need. And then you know, we've got now here Falcon 9, which in comparison with Saturn V or shuttle, it's like this tiny rocket in comparison in terms of, the power, the kind of damage that it can make. Because the shuttle with the SRBs, it was quite a punch to that flame trench. So yeah, and now 39A is evolving. You can see there on the right hand side. Well, whatever you can see of that tower, you cannot see the pad unfortunately because the fog is in the way. But you can see at least the tower for Starship there. They are outfitting that to launch Starship from 39A. And we've got now another question, sort of in the same vein of launch pads and things like that from Resist Jet, asking how do they decide which pads to use? It is a combination of factors that contributes or launch schedules and rocket type. Like what's sort of the things that they may have to take into consideration for this?
Yeah, it's a combination of factors indeed, like this person said. Not all rockets can launch from every pad. So Falcon 9 can launch from 39A, what we're looking at right now, but in Florida it can also launch from Slick 40. But if SpaceX wants to launch a Falcon Heavy, that can only launch from 39A. And the infrastructure at Slick 40 is just not built for Falcon Heavy.
Mhm.
But now we're launching a Falcon 9. Why would we launch it from 39A or 40? That is up to whatever pad is ready, whatever pad is available. And what we've actually seen is that this is the first launch from this pad in quite some time. And I don't really know why they waited so long, but there's probably something that stops SpaceX from launching from here.
Mm. Yeah, and by the way, I'm starting to see more of these videos and pictures of the event sort of between Florida and Georgia of what streaked across the sky. It does look like some kind of space debris or something like that. It might have been like the upper stage of a rocket or something like that. But yeah, and and Marty, yeah, it's one of these things that it's like you have to take into consideration the schedules, the rockets, and everything, and whether you have multiple pads available. Because for example, at the West Coast, SpaceX only has one launch pad, so it's not like they can decide out there. They soon will have to, but it's not online yet.
For now, there's not much to choose from.
Exactly. Yeah. And ULA, I mean, ULA also has only one launch pad on the East Coast. So at the end of the day, it's like, well, some providers do have the option to choose, but others don't really have the option, unfortunately, I guess.
Yeah. And the ULA one is actually more interesting because it supports two completely different rockets. They just
That is true.
haul out a completely different launch mount depending on whether they are going to launch Atlas V or Falcon.
Yep, that is true because they have Atlas V with its own launch platform, and it also rolls out there, and it's got RP1 kerosene, right? For the first stage, it's got liquid oxygen for both stages, and it also has liquid hydrogen for the upper stage. Whereas Vulcan, the fuel for the first stage changes. Instead of kerosene, it is methane. So they also have to accommodate a little bit of the tank farm for methane loading as well. So yeah, it's one of those things that it's like, sometimes maybe having just one pad but can support different rockets, that's still okay, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. But we've got here, as you can see, maybe starting already. Come on, vent. There we go. Now it's starting to appear much more active. D, because we're talking here about accommodating multiple fuels, multiple oxidizers, and whatever. So what is going on here with this vent that we see, our favorite vent at every Falcon launch pad?
Yes, so this is the best vent. It is the T-minus 20-minute vent. So this is helping them cool down the infrastructure prior to the start of liquid oxygen load for the second stage. So rather than just starting to flow that freezing liquid oxygen like at full flow into the stage, they want to cool down the infrastructure. It helps prevent a lot of things like the flashing into a gas and the sudden thermal shock. Now, actually, from my perspective, I can't see the 20-minute vent at all. It's totally obscured by the fog, but this higher, yeah, that's my view right now. Um, but from these higher up cameras, you can see that 20-minute vent has started, and it fog can be gorgeous. Don't let Jack hear me say that.
Oh, yeah. Thankfully he's going, so he's not gonna be around to tell you that here on a live stream. But you never know. He might actually do that in front of you, actually in person. In any case, that was funny. We have a few more questions. Oh my god. Uh, we have from Flippers about breakfast. But I think it's sort of on point with this lunchtime, right? Because it being at 7 a.m. Look at that. That's way orange. We've had here, what kind of breakfast do you guys have on hand? on launch this early? Bagels in memory of Jags. Maybe D?
Well, uh, this isn't a great example, but I don't really do a breakfast before a launch like this. It's
Well, we need to solve that.
like what? It is so early in the morning, and this one especially, I just like got out of bed, rolled out of bed here basically, uh, to see this launch and get it going. But I will grab some food as I head home after this.
And you, Marty?
Well, it's nearing 1 in the afternoon where I'm at, so I should have had breakfast by now, but I
You should.
haven't. Uh,
Well, too
I
bad.
I didn't have any breakfast on hand, and I didn't feel like going out to the supermarket this morning. So I think I will be grabbing lunch or brunch, I suppose, after this launch.
I'm gonna say I just had leftovers from yesterday's dinner. It's the usual thing, right? It's like when you don't want to have to make your own breakfast in the morning, it's like I'll take just the leftovers from yesterday. So yeah, uh, I've really not put much attention on that, and I'm not a bagel fan. I'm gonna be honest myself. I'm not really into that. So yeah, I'm sorry, Jack, if you're watching. I hope not, because it's very early in the Central Coast as well. So, um, but yeah, speaking of visibility, we have here a question literally beginning like that, talking about what will be the good public viewing spots for New Glenn. And I know D, you're probably more acquainted with this sort of question.
Sorry, I took another look at the rocket, and I can't see the rocket anymore. It's totally obscured from my perspective. Um,
Well,
so for
sort of
New
on point.
Glenn, uh, you've got a lot of great options. Basically, anywhere along Cocoa Beach will have a spectacular view. I know Cherry Down will be excellent. I plan to be at Jetty Park, which is not that's like a paid area, but it is also a spectacular view. So there, honestly, anywhere along the beach, if you don't want it to be your focus, you can go to the beach, have a beach day, and watch a launch as you are enjoying the beach on a cooler evening. Yeah, I can see the top of the Starship Tower still, but I can't see much more of 39A than that.
And we also have more questions here about launch pads. I guess people are really enamored with all of these different launch pads at the Cape. By the way, you should watch our Space Coast updates, which Barty, you have also part of those. And I know you didn't cover this on your section, but it's sort of along the lines of Space Coast, where they're asking, where will the second Starship launchpad be built at KSC? Haven't they already begun building the tower sections for it?
Yeah, I wasn't about to cover it, but during my section of the latest flyover, I went up the coast from Blue Origin's pad, and right before I hit Slick 37, I handed it over to you, Alex, because that is where SpaceX is actually going to build a couple of launch pads for Starship. And if I'm not mistaken, we are already seeing them building tower sections at their Roberts Roads facilities. And we suspect that these might be paths for the towers that will be erected at Slick 37.
Yeah, in that case, then, because a lot of people usually use the blanket term KSC, right, or the Cape, and it turns out not a lot of folks are aware that that's actually two different locations. Because you've got the Kennedy Space Center, right, that's in Merritt Island, and then you've got the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, which is at the Cape, and they are two different locations. They are just sort of one next to each other, and the whole thing is sort of this Space Coast. And so it's like, boom, you've got there the brand name there for both locations, both spaceports on the Space Coast of Florida.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but
Yeah.
the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station is a Space Force facility, And the Kennedy Space Center is actually a NASA facility.
It is.
Operated by different branches of government.
Yep. And so this is another thing as well interesting with all, and I guess it sort of goes along with the whole government shutdown and the impacts with the latest executive order or emergency order, I should say, where is like, while the Kennedy Space Center is sort of managed by NASA, launches from the Kennedy Space Center are still supported by the Space Launch Delta 45, right? Which is why we were saying, well, it's weird that they did not publish the weather forecast, for example. And somebody might think, well, duh, right? It's from NASA's Kennedy Space Center. It's not the Space Force site, right? But they still do that support when they launch out of Kennedy Space Center. So we were still, we will have expected it at the very least, even if it were from there. But yeah, good point, Marty. See, I see the fog is getting even worse. Yeah, I think this is revenge for yesterday's Vandy Slandy.
I think we called this on ourselves.
I earned it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And sort of also in the vein of visibility, we have from Kit 44KT, I guess, or maybe 44 knots, I don't know. Is this a northeast launch? When is the SpaceX likely to switch to southeast direction for winter? Marty, you may be able to answer the first one. I can do the second part.
Yeah, this is a northeast launch, which you may also be able to see in our next spaceflight app, where you can actually plot the trajectory and see it move up the coast, up the east coast, to the north, all the way past Canada. But at some point, SpaceX will indeed move to southeastern trajectories to avoid the harsh weather in the Atlantic. But I don't know when, Alex.
Yeah, so the southeast launches started last week. We had one of those Group 6 missions. Let me actually look it up, because I had it ready, but because my computer crashed earlier, I no longer have it ready. So yeah, the Starlink Group 6-81 mission that happened just a few days ago, that one went southeast, and that is the first of these sort of winter season, I guess, of going southeast, because the weather is quite bad on the North Atlantic compared to the southern or sort of like the Caribbean side of things, right? And so that's what they usually do in the winter nowadays, where they go and launch southeast for recovery of the booster. But this one in particular is one of the last missions, if not the last, that is going to go northeast, at least for 2025. We will have to wait until summer of 2026 for that to return. So yeah, this is going to the northeast. And of course, I just mentioned, this is all about that landing of the booster, because the weather out there at sea is not great. And you know what happens when the booster is recovered, right? And that is the entry and landing. And we have a very special piece of merch, which you might be already familiar with, which is the launch, entry, and landing collection. And, one of the things is that you may see here the Falcon 9 version, but if you go to the store, there's also a New Glenn version. And I think that because of New Glenn's second launch, that will be a very, very nice thing to have, sort of as a reminder that we have another big rocket launching this week. And it's Methalox, it's blue. It's not just because it's the rocket company named Blue Origin, but if you watch the first launch, it literally was a blue plume out of that rocket, and it looked really cool. So yeah, it's one of those things that I guess we should do something like that for Starship once, launches become operational and they launch from multiple places, not just Starbase and things like that. But yeah, also because the landing burn, it's a lot weirder, I guess. There's no entry burn either. It will be sort of like launch and landing shirt, I guess. We'll have to ask the shop people for that. In any case, D, do I have to bid you farewell here for the remainder of the show?
Well, I will keep y'all in my ear. I'm looking out into the fog. So it is while we can't see the rocket, I think it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful launch because this light is wonderful. So I will see you all on the other side.
Yeah, and so now that we are here under 8 minutes, this is my turn to tell you everybody to jump in chat, and if you have any questions, do them now or keep them to the next stream. I don't know, because after this it's just gonna be the launch, and then we're gonna do our replays as always. Maybe hit a few more questions there, but last few minutes, tag at NASA Space Flying Chat at NSF, and you can have your questions answered. In the meantime, we're gonna hit a little bit of the timeline because as you can see there, we are already at T-minus 7 minutes, and that means we're gonna get very active here. Unfortunately, that fog might not allow us to see that much. Marty, where are we at here on the timeline? Maybe we can pull up that timeline graphic to help us visually of what is going on.
Yeah, I believe that Falcon 9 should have started engine chill on the first stage by now. And that would be that they flow the cryogenic propellant through the engine because it's so cold, and that is very bad for materials. Most materials cannot handle being shocked by these extreme temperatures all at once. So that is a procedure called engine chill, which it has begun indeed, according to this graphic. And the next thing on the timeline is a slight retract of the strong back. That is the structure that is holding up the rocket. And that's also the structure that some of the lines for loading the second I cannot speak anymore. For loading the second stage are installed on.
It's okay.
But at liftoff, this structure will swing out of the way all the way. But just in preparation of that procedure, they will start retracting it slightly, ever so slightly, a few minutes ahead of the launch.
There we go.
After completing the loading liquid oxygen on the first and second stage, they will get into the final preparations for this launch, eventually hand the control over to the rocket so that it can lift off at T0.
Yeah, and let's hope that, again, the fog, one of the things that will happen is that we will probably not see that much while on the ground, but as soon as the rocket lifts off, we're going to see it very clearly, right? So yeah, we'll have some good tracking, hopefully, from our robotic cameras and also from the out there in the field as well for this launch. Now, we have another super chat by Byford here. There is Jack Payback. This is Jack Payback for us all saying Vandenberg has more fog than clear skies. Oh well, we can all eat crowd today. Yep, I guess. And you can see there from the launchpad cameras, at the very least, we can see the rocket, which is nice. Also covered in fog, but its own fog there with its own condensation. And we also
can
have...
I hop back in? Because that
Sure.
just shows how still the air is.
Drawn by
That
Florida,
it is.
started.
It is just sitting there right around the vehicle.
Yeah, it's very. I guess that sort of goes along with the fog, right? If the wind is not blowing that much, which is one of the things that I've heard for Vandenberg. Like, it's so foggy, but when it's foggy, it's actually good wind condition, because that means the fog is not being blown out by the wind, right? The clouds are not being sort of moved around. So if it's foggy, it's actually good weather for launch because the wind is still, essentially. And we also have Crispy gifting 10 Red Team memberships as well here on our panel for support. But that's going to be the end of that for before the launch, because of course we are 3.5 minutes to launch. So we have to deal with business. And we just heard before that call out of Stromback retracting. I think you can see there at the top of the Stromback, those clamp arms have opened. And as Marty said before, we should see, that end of liquid oxygen load on the first and second stages. Ooh, look at that. That's such a pretty view.
You can
From-
actually see the strong back moving away from the rocket there.
Yeah.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
Well, thank you, person in the countdown net, for confirming that. So first stage is now fully loaded with propellant. Nice, gorgeous launch view here that we're gonna get, and of course, we were seeing all of those wispy clouds and whatever, but it seems like those are all on the other side, right? So it's gonna be clear on the path for this launch. So hopefully we get a good visibility. We had, of course, the fog at ground level. So yeah. And we are approaching now, we should probably hear in a few seconds that call out for liquid oxygen load on the second stage being wrapped up. And we'll also have the comeback of the Stromback vent. I can see some of the numbers already on that fairing. I see 183, so that will be serial number 183. Good.
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
There we go. So Falcon 9 is now fully loaded with propellant ahead of liftoff and getting ready for launch. We are 98 seconds away from liftoff. Next up should be Falcon 9 enters startup, and that is when the ground computers hand over control of the countdown to the onboard computers on Falcon 9.
Ground gas closeout.
Should also have the gas closeouts, as we just heard. All of that venting from the ground systems, clearing them out and safing them ahead of liftoff. Shortly after Falcon 9 enters startup, we should hear also confirmation from the launch director that they are go for launch. So let's stand by for that, for the first call out for startup.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
And there we go, Falcon 9 is in startup. Now controlling the count and doing all of the final automated checks to make sure that everything is ready for launch. Let's hear now for the launch director to give their go for launch. Hopefully in a few seconds, please.
Hold. Standing down due to recovery, weather conditions.
Oh,
Launch abort is running.
well. That is not great.
That's not what we like to see.
It is indeed not the thing that we like to see.
Did I get correctly that it was due to weather conditions?
Yeah, apparently on the downrange for the booster recovery.
So it does make sense that they're moving recovery to
Southeast.
the other trajectory, southeast, yeah.
Yep, now you see why they don't go northeast during the winter times. Or fall, I guess, because it's still fall. I think I heard D on our own microphones as well. But you know what happens when a launch gets scrubbed? I don't know if our producer has this already queued up or not, but I'm just gonna say. I'm just gonna leave it at that. That you already know what's gonna happen.
It's coming.
So yeah, Marty.
I was just saying that you're teasing something, but it's coming, and
Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna say they're telling me in the back channel that don't wait. I'm just gonna say, yeah, of course we've got our scrub merch as usual when these things happen. Dear Lord, I watched the whole stream and all I got was a Falcon 9 scrub. Yep, these things happen. Weather is not favorable downrange for the booster recovery. So unfortunately, today is a hold and scrub for today's launch attempt. And of course, I guess Carson chose pink because we've got D in comms, I guess. But yeah, that is not great. And that scrub merch, of course, is a way of you supporting this many long hours that we have to work for these things, folks, because I know D has missed lots of sleep to be able to support today's launch. Tomorrow, we've got the New Glenn as well. New Glenn's launch on Sunday. And it's a few long hours, so you know, you can grab one of those, support us in the way, and you get a nice piece of merch as well as a treat for this, for being here, for watching these shows, for being on a Falcon 9 scrub, I guess.
Alex, I really didn't want to scrub today, but I do want
I
that shirt.
know. You want that shirt?
Yes.
It's pink. I know you will like it.
It's a good shirt.
It is, and we had recently, because we also had the Atlas 5, but of course, one of these things is like another feature of this scrub merch is that it's only available for a certain amount of time, right? So we had recently the scrub of Atlas 5, and when that happened, it was up there for only 6 hours, and for those 6 hours. And if you don't get it, you don't get it, right? So the same deal with this, although Falcon 9 launches are a little bit more common these days. So yeah, that will be something a little bit more common, I guess, in future instances if you cannot get it now. But in any case, I guess we should be bidding you all adieu, because I guess we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with this mission. I mean, they held and they scrubbed today. They have another attempt, hopefully tomorrow. We have here a super chat. We love you, Jack. Good luck, man. Coffee to go. Yo, I don't know. But yeah. And of course, we don't have any replays. We don't have anything else to go through. So unfortunately, I guess it is time to wrap up here. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Marty, for being with me as well, because that was very nice company here in the morning Eastern time, afternoon for us on Europe. Thank you for being here.
It was fun hanging out. This wasn't the outcome we hoped for, but we still
Yeah.
had a fun chat. So thank you for having me, and thanks everyone for joining in.
On the flip side, whenever it happens, if it happens, again, this launch attempt might still be during nighttime. Unfortunately, I don't think DYs out there in the field will like that, but it might not be foggy. So we may have retribution, I think, whatever is the word. Thank you for being out there.
Of course. It was my pleasure. You know, I think the Vandy Slandy got to us today. And
right.
all the talk of fog, and Jack was trying to bring up the weather scrubs, and so we just happened to get both today.
Yeah, this is what happens when you slander the Vander, I guess. The Vandenberg. In any case, folks, I've been Alex, of course. I'm always Alex. I'm not like Ryan. And this is going to be it for today. Of course, thanks to Carson as well in the background for producing the show and pulling all the levers and pushing all the buttons, which I didn't get to say because my computer crashed at the beginning of the show. But thankfully, it is not now. Knock on wood. And see you all on the next one. Let's hope the next one is not a scrub.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RS-68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roger, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside SE off. Say again, SE off. It's orange!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
43 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
If the methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?